All right. I'm sure most of our homes have a kitchen where we prepare and eat our meals, but have you ever had to dig around your fridge or your pantry to find what you're looking for or what you wanted to eat? When we eat out, there are so many health codes and um, like rules that restaurants have to follow to serve us. But what about when we make food for ourselves at home? Basic food safety should be used in our daily lives and kitchens, and that can be easily applied. And today I'm going to give you 3 easy practices that you can apply in your own homes, and that is how to properly clean, separate, and organize your food. So the first thing you want to do is always make sure before you're handling food to wash your hands and keep the environment you're using clean. So when you clean the things you're using, like kitchenware, cutting boards, the dishes you're eating on, the forks, and obviously your hands, you want to use warm soapy water because that is the most efficient way to get rid of germs. And according to Chris Eliades, who is a doctor who did an article about the different kinds of diseases that we can catch from food every year. He says that every year an estimated of 1 in 6 Americans get sick. So that's about 128,000 who are hospitalized and 3,000 that die from these foodborne illnesses. This can include like Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria. So these are like the main diseases that come from food and the ones that we should watch out for. But they can also be prevented. So keeping clean is important, but different types of food can also contaminate each other. So cross-contamination is something that happens when food that has like bacteria like raw meats, when it gets contaminated because it's like in contact with foods that don't have those diseases or bacteria. So cross-contamination can be prevented. So when you buy foods at the grocery store, you should keep meats, poultry, seafood, and eggs in like those plastic bags that are offered at the grocery store. And that means keeping them separate from the moment you get them in the grocery store to when you check out to all the way to your house and up until you cook them, which is how you get rid of those unhealthy bacteria. And according to the US Department of Agriculture, the FSIS states that washing raw poultry, beef, pork, lamb, or veal before cooking is not recommended. Bacteria in the raw meat and poultry juices can be spread to other foods, utensils, and surfaces. So what that means is, contrary to belief, if you were to wash like raw meats, instead of cleaning it, it would actually spread even further up to around like 3 feet around your sink because of the water that comes in contact. It would splash out and infect other things in your kitchen. So cross-contamination is easily prevented, but there's also bacteria that is constantly on our foods, both healthy and unhealthy. And keeping our food at the right temperature is how we slow down the growth of those unhealthy bacteria, especially on raw meat and produce. So there's a range called the danger zone, and again from the FSIS, they state that bacteria grows most rapidly in the range of temperatures between 40 and 140 Fahrenheit, which is called the danger zone. Some bacteria doubling in numbers as little as 20 minutes. So that's pretty quick. So when you get home, you should immediately put foods that need to be frozen or just kept cool in your fridge. And I'm also going to teach you like what the different drawers in your fridge are meant to do, because the sealed drawers control humidity, and it's recommended that fruits and veggies be kept in those drawers because fruits which need lower humidity will last longer in those cabinets, and then vegetables that need higher humidity will do better in those cabinets as well. And for the door, when you open your fridge, when you look at the door with the shelves, you shouldn't keep any eggs in there because the temperature fluctuates a lot in that area because it's exposed to a lot of warm heat when you open it. So you should keep condiments, dressings, and sodas in there instead of like perishable goods. And then raw foods should be kept towards the bottom because it's colder. And then more ready-to-eat foods can be kept closer to the top. Ultimately, whether you personally cook or just eat whatever your parents bring to the table, you should really be cautious of what you're consuming both outside and in your homes. And practicing basic food safety can help us stay healthy while also allowing us to enjoy our favorite foods. It's important to wash and clean our hands, make sure we're not contaminating our foods with each other, and properly store them. So when you pass by your kitchen later tonight, when you're grabbing a snack or something, maybe look around and see if they would pass like a food safety inspection. The health and deliciousness of your meals depends on it.
So let me get started. Ignore that I'm in my pajamas. It's late. It's very late. Okay. So according to the CDC, 106,699 people died of a drug overdose in 2021. 88% of those were caused by an opioid. However, studies have shown that in communities with accessible Narcan and overdose education, overdose deaths significantly decreased in those communities. So it's highly important to learn how to use Narcan as it saves lives and is the best way we as individuals can combat the growing opioid crisis. So to start, today I will explain what Narcan is, how to use it, and how to obtain it. So to start, what is Narcan and how does it work? So Narcan is the brand name for naloxone. It's a drug that reverses opioid overdoses. It comes as either a nasal spray or an injectable version. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration defines it as it is an opioid antagonist, meaning that it binds to opioid receptors and can reverse and block the effects of other opioids, such as heroin, morphine, oxycodone, or fent, most commonly. Administered when a patient is showing signs of opioid overdose. Naloxone is a temporary treatment and its effects do not last long. However, it can save lives. So Narcan only works for opioid overdoses, as I mentioned, but fentanyl is more increasingly apparent in drugs, even if they're stimulants. So if someone is using cocaine, for example, there is a good chance that fent is in it and they can overdose on that. So no matter what, if you see somebody overdosing, even if it's on a stimulant, you should be using Narcan. In a UCLA health study, addiction researcher Joseph Friedman said, "We're now seeing that the use of fentanyl together with stimulants is rapidly becoming the dominant force in the US overdose crisis." So now that I have explained how Narcan works and why we should use it, I'll tell you where to obtain it. So over the past few years, Narcan has actually become extremely accessible. You can find it at pretty much any CVS or Walgreens, but it's pretty expensive, but that's like the easiest place you can find over the counter. $30 to $50, but you only get one box with the 2 sprays. So to get it for free, you can visit a harm reduction program. You can also receive all kinds of other harm reduction supplies there. But if you want to get Narcan, go to Harm Reduction Center. So if you don't know where one is, Santa Clara County Public Health Program is like the closest harm reduction program to us. It's both at the Crane Center, but also travels. So you can go to their website, which is publichealth.scc.gov.org, and you can find the directions and locations and times there. But if you want to find one, let's say you're in Colorado for some reason, you can go to nextdistro.org, and it provides hold on. My battery just announced that it was at 10%. I'm so sorry. Anyway, you can go to nextdistro.org and they'll provide you with a map and you can find any harm reduction program in the country. Okay, so it's very easy to obtain. Now, for the most important part, how is it administered? It's much easier than you think. Now, I'm going to describe how to use the nasal spray because I'm not good with needles, and I'm assuming most of you aren't, so I'm not going to teach you how to inject it with needles because that would be very difficult. So first, you need to know the signs of an overdose. These are if someone is and limp or like nodding off, you might like that, sort of like slumped over, not responsive. If they have PIMPs, and it's kind of scary, but like if they have like a rattling breathing sound or they're like gurgling from the throat, mostly though it's just the unresponsive nodding offness is what you want to look for. So what you do next is you shout at them and shake them like aggressively, and take your knuckles and rub it down their sternum very forcefully. So if they don't wake up, that's when you shouldn't use Narcan. In the event of a false alarm and somebody isn't overdosing, don't worry, Narcan doesn't have any negative effects on the person who isn't overdosing, so don't worry about that. So what you want to do is to first make sure the person's airways aren't blocked. So lift their neck up so their head is like sort of pointing so they can get air in. Then you want to, I actually have one here to demonstrate. So take the spray, put it because I want to waste it, and insert it all the way so that your fingers are touching their nose. Insert the spray, easy enough. They should wake up pretty almost directly soon after. If they don't, administer the second dose and then wait 2-3 minutes. So because the fent amount in drugs is increasing more and more, I think the DEA said that 6 out of 10 pills contain a like fully lethal dose of fent in them. You're gonna probably need to use 2. I've been in a situation where I've had to use 4 on a person. So you want to do the 2, wait 2-3 minutes. Then if they're still not waking up, use another one. Now, the question I hear a lot, do I call 911? A lot of people, especially younger people, are very scared to call 911 because they're worried they'll get in trouble. Don't worry. Absolutely call 911. Call them. Get somebody else to call 911 while you're administering the Narcan. Tell them, don't do the thing where it's like they're not breathing. Tell them they're overdosing so they can bring what they need to. They can understand the situation already. In California, we have Good Samaritan law, which will protect both the person overdosing and you. So don't worry about that. You can, if you want to Google more on Good Samaritan law, feel free. But don't worry about that. You will not get in trouble. And also, Narcan only works 30 to 90, and opioids stay in the system way longer than that. So you're going to need to get them to the hospital. All right. So to wrap things up, to end my speech, I have discussed the necessity of naloxone and how to obtain and use it. And through this speech, I've explained how naloxone can save lives and help us address the opioid crisis. And I hope you all learned about the importance of naloxone, and I've learned a little bit more about the importance of harm reduction.
So I'm next. Okay, let me just start my timer. And okay. Imagine walking into a room full of bright colors and beautiful designs. You see people leaving the room with bright smiles on their faces and perfectly manicured nails. But behind this is the hidden danger that nail technicians face on a daily basis. The nail industry has expanded year after year, bringing customers in that buy today. But there has been an uprise of health issues within nail technicians. The immense chemical exposure that nail technicians face is very detrimental on their health and, in the long run, their future. This is caused by poor environment and enforcement in the nail salons. But what's up with nails? Why does everyone like it? Nail art has been a huge staple in fashion and style. According to an online article by Ella Navarro titled, "Why Are Acrylic Nails In Right Now?" Quote, the main reason why acrylic nails are in right now is because influencers and the way it brings out a person's personality, end quote. A person's choice on their length, style, design, or color of their nails can really, and as well as bring confidence and make them feel good in their own skin. But if nails feel good on the client's skin, what about nail technician's skin? The chemical exposure that nail technicians face can bring a negative health effect on their life. They're at higher risk of contracting health issues and diseases such as asthma, skin conditions like dermatitis, liver disease, reproductive loss, and cancer. According to a study done by J Community Health, they conducted a study within 112 people and sampled about 100 personal studies. And they quoted that self-reported health problems emerged and worsened after participants started working in nail salons. 8% to headaches, 9.8% to lightheadedness, and 21.2% to irritation to nose, eyes, skin, and throat. Chemicals like toluene, ethyl acetate, and formaldehyde are chemicals that are found in nail products such as nail remover, hardener, nail polish, and nail glue, all of which cause difficulty breathing, liver and kidney disease, and harm to unborn children during pregnancy. There's also another chemical, MMA, methyl methacrylate, that was found to have high toxicity rate levels and was deemed poisonous by the FDA, but was still found in nail salons, except for it being banned in some states. So as more and more chemicals are being exposed to nail technicians, there's a dozen more chemicals that they're exposed to, but what measures can we do to really prevent that? So good ventilation and air quality is very important when working in a workplace. According to an online course that provides information and guidance to those who want to enter the nail business, quoted that excess carbon dioxide in the air can lower performance and decision-making skills, as well as poor ventilation can allow vapor and dust to accumulate in the air. My mom used to work in the nail industry, and I would always tag along with her morning till night, and I would come home feeling so sick because I was surrounded by everyone just doing nails. And my mom actually stopped working in the nail as a nail technician because of the health issues that she kept on experiencing. And also another health hazard in nail salons is that I would experience food all around the workstations that they had, and if the bunch of chemicals while doing your nails and stuff, it's also going to go on the food, which is going to contaminate it. So not only are you inhaling it, you're also eating it. So yeah. So by enforcing proper regulation, like requiring gloves, goggles, masks to minimize skin exposure, as well as implementing adequate ventilation, replacing air filters and exhausts to make sure that nail technicians are not overexposed with the chemicals in the workplace. To wrap things up, overexposure of chemicals can cause detrimental effects to nail technicians. The nails industry has expanded year after year, bringing a lot of customers in. However, there's an uprise of health issues that they face. I hope I informed you all of the dangers that workers face, and I'm not saying that it's bad to get your nails done, because I also get my nails done, but just consider of the work and effort that nail technicians go through. And if you want to support your local nail business, then you can just recognize it. And now if you're your mom or your girlfriend, your brother, boyfriend, or dad wants to get their nails done and they want to force you to pay for it, just say you don't support it. Thank you.
phone's gonna fall. So like, okay. As someone who's been smoking weed since the age of 13, I've been personally faced with the consequences of the use of marijuana at a young age. I want to educate my audience on how the use of marijuana during adolescence can have an effect on the developing brain and mind. I'll be talking about how it can affect one's cognitive abilities and how it can lead to addiction and a higher risk of mental health disorders. Starting off with cognitive, how marijuana can affect one's cognitive functioning and learning abilities. Growing up, I would always have like the best memory out of everyone in my family. Like I would play those like memory card games where you like flip them and like try to make matches and stuff. And like those memory games on my DS, like I always had the best memory. And ever since 8th grade, I just can't remember anything. Can't remember last sentence I just said, like it's bad. From an article covering several studies affecting how marijuana can affect the adolescent brain, overall, the majority of data supporting poor cognitive performance on measures of attention and learning and memory in adolescent users of cannabis. However, frequency and severity of use is likely to play a role, particularly in those reporting younger age of initiation. Like the post says, the frequency and severity of how much you're smoking does play a role into if you're gonna have the effects of using marijuana. So like, sorry, the brain usually stops developing around the age of 25, which is why it's important for teenagers to not smoke weed at such a young age, because it will cause you to have short-term memory loss, attention issues, solving problems, and issues thinking. Now that I've talked about how marijuana can affect one's cognitive abilities, let's talk about how use of marijuana during youth can lead to addiction. From the article, is marijuana addictive? Recent data suggests that 30% of those who use marijuana may have some degree of marijuana use disorder. People who begin using marijuana before the age of 18 are 4 to 7 times more likely to develop marijuana use disorder than. What is marijuana use disorder? It is when someone is unable to quit smoking or using weed, despite the fact that it's causing social problems and health issues in their life. Having addiction to weed really controls people's lives, and personally, I'm a victim of that. I've tried quitting. It's just like, it's really hard, especially since I've been smoking for so long. It's just I become like dependent on it, and it's really hard. Sorry. And yeah. Now that I've explained how adolescents who use marijuana are more prone to addiction, marijuana are at a risk of developing or worsening mental health disorders. The regular use of marijuana during adolescence is linked to increased mental health disorders. Smoking weed is a common coping mechanism for several teens, and it's very popularized, especially at school. A lot of people smoke like weed and nicotine in the bathrooms, so it's really easy to get hooked onto it. And a lot of teens are already dealing with mental health issues, so it really doesn't help that it's so like out there. From a study conducted on 70,000 students or adolescents, ages 12 to 17, non-disordered cannabis users were 2 to 2.5 times more likely to have adverse mental health outcomes and behavior problems compared to teens who didn't use cannabis at all. Teens with an addiction to cannabis were 3.5 to 4.5 times more likely to have these issues. This just shows how weed can cause one to develop mental health disorders, and weed is a very big depressant, and so it really doesn't help to have that, like, in addition to already having mental health issues, because it just makes it worse and harder for it to stop. To wrap up, marijuana is one of the most common drugs, and teens are very vulnerable to the negative effects of it when starting at a young age. Now that I've covered how marijuana can affect one's cognitive abilities and how it can lead to addiction and a higher risk of mental health disorders, I'm gonna be wrapping up. And although I love weed and how it's helped me through hard times, I definitely regret starting at such a young age because it's definitely caused a lot of hardships in my life and makes things a lot harder for me than they should be. Thank you.